I am going to show you some astonishing before and after pictures of how common crops that we eat every day used to look like before we humans came in and domesticated them and started genetically manipulating them. Here is how rice used to look like. Here is how it looks like now. Here is how tomatoes used to look like. Here is what we have today. And one of my favorite, here is how watermelon used to look like, and here is what it looks like today. Even the maize that we have today is completely unrecognizable compared to that first originated from South America. Indeed, in the story of human crop domestication, human beings have always tried to improve the traits that are expressed in the plants that they eat, be it making them bigger, more tasty, more colorful, any good thing. And for centuries, the preferred method for changing these traits was selective breeding. Selective breeding is a form of genetic modification. However, I feel like many people don't actually consider it as such. And they should, because if we consider selective breeding as a form of genetic modification, you realize that all the plants that we eat today have been genetically modified. Hi, welcome. I am the African Scientist. Recently, I had a conversation with a very intelligent, well-informed researcher in this topic. Her name is Sylvia Cherono. The links to the full podcast that we had is in the description. Perhaps where we should all start is, are genetically modified plants harmful to our health? Well, I say plants because most of the genetically modified organisms that we eat are plants. Genetically modified animals haven't yet gotten the approval that plants have. So are they safe for our health? Countless researchers have tried to correlate or find any connections between genetically modified organisms and cancer, autoimmune disease, and many other diseases that affect human bodies. And each and every one of them has not found any clear connection between genetically modified organisms and human disease. So what did the expert have to say?
For the genetically modified crops, you find that there's lack of knowledge outside here. Like many people just feel like when I take a genetically modified crop, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to get what? There's just a lot of false information that is spreading out here.
I think it's important if we first start by understanding how is this modification done. The easiest form of genetic modification is selective breeding, as I've said, where plants that have certain desirable traits are selectively bred and become better and better with each successive generation. However, as the technology of genetic modification has grown, the introduction of methods like the CRISPR have brought a great ease in introducing new genes that did not previously exist in plants. I know you may wonder, do the scientists just take like a needle and stick it into a fruit and inject some new genetic material into it, or how exactly is it done? Here's what the professional had to say.
Basically, it's 4 steps. You identify the trait, and then you isolate the genes through various mechanisms like the cloning, molecular cloning, and then you take those genes and you insert it to the organism that you're interested in through like the tissue culture thing, and then you propagate the crops. Now you grow them in soil, and then you wait to see the phenotypic appearance of the crop. For the anthocyanin content, it will be the phenotype, the way it looks like. I'll see if the color has improved. But for things like sweetness, you have to run series of tests. You have to test the sugar content. The shelf life, you can test with the storage. Maybe you put it in a place that has high temperatures and you test for some days. You're like, I want to see for like, let's say 10 days.
I think what scares most people away from anything labeled GMO is just the fear of the unknown or the lack of understanding on the methods of modification. Indeed, genetic modification has been found to be very useful in adding certain traits like extra nutrients like vitamins, or changing the taste or texture or color of a certain fruit or plant that we enjoy. Or perhaps one of the biggest ones is reducing the use of pesticides by making the plants naturally resistant to disease attack, be it insect or fungal or viral or whatever. I don't think I need to explain to you why pesticides on our food are bad. A pesticide is a poison, so less of it on our food is better for everyone. Through genetic modifications, farmers have been able to increase the yields of their crops, leading to better income on their part, but also increasing the amount of food available to the ever-increasing human population. However, just like anything else, genetic modification has its dark sides. This is what the professional had to say.
And also some GM crops have been shown to cause allergy. Like the BT cotton in India, you find the farmers who are working on the crops, the ones who are picking the cotton, they were reported to have some sort of allergy, and it was, when they track back, they can relate it to the BT cotton farming. So also when you're genetically engineering these crops and you're propagating them in the farm, you use the BT stands for this bacteria that is being used, the Bacillus thuringiensis. So you find that these crops, these genetically modified crops, they end up killing some insects, the insects that help in the pollination of the plants. So in a way, it also destroys our ecosystem.
Perhaps one of the biggest problems that has been recently documented by ecological scientists is the fact that certain food crops that have been genetically modified to resist insect pests are killing all insects indiscriminately. Why is this a danger? Certain insects like bees are immensely important in the pollination of over 3/4 of the foods that human beings consume. Their absence would create huge shortages of food, with many plants being unable to be pollinated. And this is not even counting many other insects that are useful in the ecosystem or are neutral. They don't harm the plants in any way, but they are being affected by the changes that have been introduced to these genetically modified food crops. Some scientists have also been concerned about gene flow, the fact that once certain genetic traits are introduced into the ecosystem, these traits flow down into the wild, causing changes that are unpredictable. This could have many unintended ecological consequences. Have you noticed that many of the genetically modified food crops actually don't have seeds? The companies who invest billions in the research and development of these incredibly resilient food crops do this intentionally, in a way sort of locking the intellectual property rights to the genetic information that these plants hold. This means that year after year, farmers have to go back to those companies and buy the seeds in order for them to continue doing their agriculture. This has caused certain companies, some big name companies, to control and have a monopoly over the seed markets in the world, thereby charging farmers whatever they want for the seeds that they so desperately need.
Companies like Monsanto, the Aventis, it's like a monopoly. It's like they're the only ones that control like these two. I think they major in the seeds, the cereals, so don't allow other members to join in the circle. So you find this monopoly thing is really killing this research. That's why you find it has a lot of controversies, because Monsanto will do it for its own benefit. At times it has I think that company has a lot of cases going on because of this issue of just doing things for their own benefit. I think this monopoly thing is really killing the GM research.
Indeed, even though legislation still doesn't exist in Africa to control the sale and distribution of genetically modified organisms, many countries in the European Union have outrightly banned the sale of any genetically modified food crop in their market. This is not the same case in Africa. Many countries do not have a strong hold on what kind of seeds are planted within their territories and which ones may not.
In Africa, I feel it's there. I think some countries are really implementing this issue of the GM crops, and many bodies they're forming up bodies that can help to regulate its consumption. But I think it's something that is being introduced in small quantities, and they're looking at the major food crops, the staple crops mostly, because you find some countries have like Kenya, I think the BT cotton has been approved, and other countries like South Africa, Burkina Faso, they're really doing a lot of this. They've really approved most of these GM crops.
Examples of like this are found all over Africa. For example, countries like Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa have put legislation in place to allow genetically modified non-food crops like cotton as sort of a pilot project to test this whole new technology out. Ultimately, just like any other technology, genetically modified organisms need time to be researched before being introduced widely in Africa. And what did the professional have to say about this?
Yes, it can. You find that we can work on improving fast the staple crops that we mostly consume. We find issues like these crops like let's say rice. We have the golden rice that has been genetically engineered to improve it has beta carotene that helps in the production of the vitamin A, and this vitamin A has been shown to help in these children deficiencies like blindness. It prevents that. So, and also these crops that have a resistance to pests like the BT maize, I think the major thing I think we can start implementing is not just to release it holistically to the country, to Africa, but we look at the certain areas where there's need to introduce. Let's say we go to an area where we find there's an issue with drought. I think it's safer to just first try it out in that area, not the whole place. Just try in because different areas have different needs.
Indeed, thinking about this problem rationally, you would see that genetically modified organisms hold a key to Africa's food security. However, this is the kind of situation where we should proceed with caution. So next time you see that huge kernel of maize or eat that huge piece of fruit, remember, it probably has been genetically modified in one way or another. So what is your opinion on all this? GMO terrible? Let's ban it, let's get rid of it, nobody wants it? Or do you think that there is something in this technology that could actually be useful in Africa? Many countries now have homegrown scientists who are specialists in this field, and I think that maybe Africa is headed in the right direction with regards to genetically modified organisms. Hey, if you like this kind of content and would like to support us, why don't you hit the subscribe button and also like this video so that YouTube can show it to more people. Of course, you can go listen to the entire podcast linked in the description. While you're in the description, why don't you click on these links to also support us? Thank you. Did you hear about one of the biggest African superheroes? Click on the pop-up banner to hear all about it. This is the African Scientist, science from an African perspective. Click on this video. YouTube thinks you may like it.